Alright, I don't know if you can see it here today or notice it, but right here in the center, that blue thing, that's not supposed to look like a puddle of paint. It's supposed to be a solid rubber wheel. It actually melted off. I'm going to go ahead and extract it today, try and get it out, see what I can do. This is on a monster drop. Normal monster drop, not monster drop extreme. First thing, I got to extract this top cover plate. I'll go ahead and get the spring tension off of here. And just so everybody knows, this is what that pile of blue goo here is supposed to look like. I don't know how that happened, but it got all over the sides of the wheel here. It's super sticky everywhere. I'm going to see what I can do to clean it up and get everything off. Alright, so you can kind of drop. This is the motor. I'm going to grab onto these nuts here with a set of channel locks. I got one on both sides here. Once I get it out, once I get both of them out, then I'll be able to lift the motor up and out. I went ahead and disconnected it. I need to cut that zip tie to free it up though as well. I'm going to do that next. So I'm grabbing the lock nut from underneath with some channel locks. Can't really be in two places at the same time. So I'm going to unscrew this top screw. There's the nut off of it. Man, this is a gooey mess. I don't know what melted that wheel. Because the motor, when I shut it off yesterday, the motor wasn't hot enough, I don't believe, to melt that wheel. I just don't know if it had a reaction. I'm going for the second one. There's the nut off of it. Alright, now the wheel should lift up a little. Make sure if you got any screws on the wheel that you don't drop them down inside. It'll be a lot harder to get them out. I'm just going to hoist it just a little bit. Just want to show y'all, see the gumminess coming off of that motor and that wheel. Brought some air in a can. Thought air in a can might help on getting this gumminess off. I'm going to see real quick here in front of you. Got the can upside down. I'm going to see if I can cool the temperature of this off a little. And maybe as the rubber gets colder, it will just chip off. I say rubber, but some type of plastic. Not cut towards myself. Let's start with that. It does help a little, but not so much. I just don't know what this compound is. Alright, so I'm going to work on cleaning this off. I guess get it off the best way you can if this happens to you. And we'll see if I have anything I can salvage. The motor should be good, I'm praying. So what I'm doing now is I'm just pushing all this goo of this wheel inside to the center of this housing, of this motor housing. Wow, it's sticky stuff. Because once I get it all into the center, I'm going to go ahead and remove these 4 screws that hold the motor in, and hopefully I can pull it all out through the bottom. Try and clean more of this up. Try and keep as many screws as I can off the play field. Alright, pay attention that there are difference in screws. Got a like a bugle head, and then you got the round top screw. The bugle head one is going to be the ones that actually recess into the plastic when the motor, when it goes up under the big wheel, that those screw heads don't drag. So be sure to put the right screw back in the right spot that it belongs. Alright. Final screws out. Let's just see if this plate pulls off. Oh man. Alright, so it looks like for the most part I got some cleaning to do. I'm just going to do everything I can to get that off. Do basically what you can. I wouldn't recommend using many solvents or any solvents at all. You don't want to get down in the motor itself. So I'm going to go ahead and work on getting all this as clean as I can. Just so you can see kind of where I'm at, I got a razor blade was the best way I thought, and I'm just trying to shave off all this gumminess as much as I can. It seems to like to stick to itself, so that's about the only way I can get it off the blade. Alright, that's about as clean as I think I'm going to get that piece right there. I may try and get some... I don't really want to use solvent on it because I'm worried about the plastics on this part. I might try some Windex or something, see if that works. I don't think it's going to get that gumminess off though. Alright, with that piece, some extra paper towel, and the stickiness gets everywhere. I'm just going to see if I can take the majority of this goop off. Ugh. It likes sticking to itself, so go ahead and set out some extra paper towels so it don't get everywhere. Sorry about the flashing lights, part of the game. Oh man, probably not the best idea, but ha. So I got a majority of it off. Now I'm going to just go back with a razor blade and see what else I can remove. Alright, works pretty good scraping it with the razor blade. I'm just going to work on the rest of it, clean this off. It might take me a minute, so I'm going to pause you again, hopefully come back with a better looking motor here. I am getting a little better, just so everybody does understand that this goo is kind of like the consistency of chewing gum on the sidewalk in the middle of summer. Everywhere so far that I've touched, it is stuck. I am still using cold air in a can, trying to chill it out so it kind of flakes off more than just is a gummy mess. So I just froze it out with some air in a can, working with my razor, scraping it down. It seems to be cleaning it fairly well, but even though it's cold, it's still like chewing gum consistency. So I'm just going to still keep cleaning on that motor the best I can. Get it all, and we'll try putting the wheel back in. Alright, I got a lot of the goop off, but I went to test something. Went to plug in my motor, and it didn't seem to want to spin at all. So I guess obviously the melted stuff has gone down inside the motor itself. This training video is probably at a standstill until I can get a new motor in, or I'm going to go ahead and try taking this motor apart and see if I can see what's on the inside. Maybe, just maybe, I can use some motor parts cleaner, clean it out. I don't know. Alright, I did pull the motor apart. I just want to show everybody I didn't really... Kind of concerned. I don't want to risk burning down our facility just to try and save some dollars on a little motor here. It did melt down completely inside the motor, which is gumming it up, allowing it not to spin and rotate. So I'm probably going to end up purchasing a new motor. Then we'll come back on the installation of that motor. I got to still clean up the edge of this wheel. The wheel's got gum all around it. It's just a really nasty mess that was created by that wheel breaking down. Alright, I did go ahead and order a motor for that monster drop, the regular size game. But at the same time, I decided to disassemble this, see what I could figure out, see what I could clean up. There's a lot of that blue gunk got down inside. It actually got into one of the bearings. I tried to disassemble the bearing, but you know, these are pressed bearings, so it couldn't do much. I don't know if you can see it, but there is all kinds of nastiness in there from that one melted wheel. So I can get it up here. See all the goo from it. So that bearing was shot. I tried to press it apart and it just destroyed on me. So I went ahead and looked at it, and to me it looked like the size of an ABEC bearing on skateboards or the trucks on a skateboard or rollerblades. So I went to Zoomies. Thanks to Zoomies for the associate there that helped me out. I did pick up another bearing. I'm going to try it out. It looks like, should be about the, check here, see how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ball bearings in there, and 3, yeah, looks like it should match. The only difference was it has a plastic housing on the back. I guess they said so you can pop it out and clean it, but nevertheless, I'm going to try pressing this back in and back on. I did measure it with my calipers on the outside and on the inside, and the height is the same, so if I'm lucky, I'll be able to salvage this motor. Everything was gummed up. Just to let you know, if your bearing does melt down like that one did, I tried Goo Gone, didn't work. Tried WD-40 to break down that blue rubber wheel that melted, didn't work. I tried the CRC Electric Clean heavy duty like a motor cleaner, did not work. The last thing that actually worked was the Goof Off. Goof Off was the winner to get all that off the wheel and the motor. So if your monster drop wheel happens to have a major meltdown and you want to try repairing the motor or cleaning it out, you're going to need to use the Goof Off. Alright, I'm going to try and put everything back together. I did completely separate everything individually just to see if it would work. I didn't want to create a video if this is not going to work at all. One of the bearing at the top here was originally the bad one, but since they're universal, I just swapped it around. I've got everything clean and back together for the most part. Now I'm going to go ahead and try and put the last bearing on here. I'm going to get set up and I'll show you how I did that. Alright, so what I did was I got the bearing and I got a socket so that my shaft can drive through the... I'm going to use something just to show you, just so that my shaft can go through the center of here. This is not the shaft, it's just a screw. But I made sure that the socket diameter, the outside diameter, matched up pretty close to this inner part, this inner wheel of the bearing here, so that whenever I tap it down, it's going to set right on top of that. And it shouldn't hit, you don't want to hit any of the sides of the bearing. Alright, so I've got my bearing, I got the motor bearing assembly part here, and it's setting flat on an anvil. So whenever I tap it down, it's not going to go anywhere. I'm going to choose to put the metal sealed part facing down. So when the motor itself, when it flips back up, it's actually going to be up facing. I'm just doing that in case maybe more stuff might ooze out again, and it wouldn't get inside this. It's still kind of half sealed, but it's not as tight as I'd like it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and set this socket right on the top, and I'm going to just give it light taps, just to make sure it goes and gets aligned properly before I try and drive it home. Sure is moving a lot on me. Okay, it looks like it's centering up fine. Remember, just little taps, take your time. You don't want to get in a rush. You're trying to save money, not cost more money. Until it gets almost centered. Once it gets the majority of this bearing gets on the shaft, it'll take over and it should go straight through. Almost there. I'm just double checking as I work. Don't appear to be damaging the bearings or anything. Looks like it's still a little off center. So I'm going to tap more on one side than the other. Alright. So I basically got past the shaft. Everything's still good.
looks fine to me. Bearings are spinning freely, both sides. Alright, I'm going to see if I can get it back into the motor housing. Sorry to skip forward. I did have to pop this bottom part off whenever I extracted it. I used a larger socket. This is actually on the bottom here. I put the socket through the center and tapped it out with a hammer and knocked the bottom out because I needed to clean everything. I had to clean all this, had to clean all the inside of this motor here. Tried not to get anything on this PCB, but I wiped them individually with Q-tips and the Goo Gone. Now I probably need to use some electrical motor cleaner on this one before I put it all back together. You can see some of that blue goo on here is sticking this rag together. Now I'm just going to follow it up with some quick drying electric cleaner. Got some compressed air. I'm going to go ahead and blow it out. Put this bottom back on, this open channel spot here. It's going to go right over those wires. Still see some gum on this lower part. I'm going to go ahead and clean it up first. Alright, so I got that bottom plate cleaned out a little better, where I'm satisfied with it. Put them both back together. I had a spacer washer here. I'll go ahead and drop it in the bottom. And then pray that this skate bearing fits down in the other housing now. Looks like it's universal except for some notches. Sound like my washer popped out. I'll check it. Wow, it's a strong magnet. See if I can put this washer on here first. I think either way.
Taylor, do you have a radio?
Yeah, I've got a radio. What's up?
Man, I'm at the kiosk, and it says it's out of cards, but when I open it up, it's got plenty of cards in it. What does that mean?
I think one of the sensors has to be out. I have to come up and check it. You're going to have to... Are you stuck in a sale?
Yeah.
Alright, sorry I had to handle something there. Kiosk issues. So we're going to try this. Wow. Looks like it might work. It might bring everything back together. Okay, so I'm going to go test this out up front, and hopefully this rebuilt motor will work for me. Alright, so it was a success. Put it all back together, took it back up front, plugged it in. Motor started rotating fine. So I'm real pleased with, I guess I got pretty lucky. Once again, thanks to Zoomies for the bearings that they hooked me up with, or actually sold me. Now I just got to put a new rubber wheel back on it. Should just push right through the center, a little bit of force. Sorry. All the way down. There we are. Alright, so I got my drive wheel back on. Just got to go put it back into the machine itself. I did go ahead and grab the housing to the motor, brought it back here, and decided to clean all around it with Goof Off. I want anything to start sticking again. I don't know if it's a friction issue or what happened with that last wheel, how come it collapsed. But I'd rather not have to deal with all this again.
Alright, so we got the motor all put back together. Sorry I didn't do a more detailed breakdown of it. I just wasn't sure that the motor would work for me. Taking it apart and disassembling it, thought I'd probably destroy something. But the motor's pretty well freed up. You got to pay attention to the orientation that you're putting it back in, how you want it to be in there. It fits really tight through this housing. I think probably what the issue last time was that our wheel, try and get where you can see it, I think the wheel itself was rubbing against this plastic housing that holds it into place and actually caused the friction, which may have melted the wheel. So think about which side is going to go up under your actual gameplay wheel, and that side that goes under needs to have your bugle-headed screws. So I got both of them in there. I'm going to go ahead and put the locking nuts on the bottom. I get this held just right. Watch to not tighten it down too tight. You don't want to crack out the plastic. Just be firm to make sure it'll hold the motor in there. Alright, now I'm going to install on the opposite side these button top screws. Alright. That's where I found out I should have had it a little looser here. There we go. Should add all the screws in before I totally tighten everything down. Come on. Good. Alright, now that I got all the screws in, I'm going to go ahead and tighten each one down. Just finger tight. It just lightly rotates the wheel so you don't have to have a lot of torque on it. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and drop the motor and the wire down in. I'm going to stick my hand under the wheel and lift it a little. Go. Now I'm going to put the screws back in that just hold it into place. Just drop one in. Drop the other rear one in. And I got my nylon lock nuts I'm going to put through the bottom to hold it together. Hold them on the bottom with a pair of pliers. You want it tight, but you don't want it so tight that it can't move. You don't want a lot of up and down, but it does need to go side to side. Alright, I'm going to return my set screw to hold the spring, to hold the tension against the wheel. I'm putting this set screw back in the spring. Alright, I kind of cleaned a lot of it up now already, but there was a lot of blue gum and gunk all around the wheel, or the rim of the wheel itself. There's a lot of gum around this edge right here. What I did to correct that was I took a chisel, I put it on its side, and put it next to the wheel right here, and I just rotated the wheel around and just kept doing it and wiping it off and scraping it and cleaning it. And then once I got the main buildup off, I took it off, the rest of it off with some goof off. That's the best way I could get it off of there. So the wheel's pretty cleaned all right now. I didn't actually go through that with you guys. So now we need to, I'm going to go ahead and test it out before I put this cover, the plastic plexi back on it. I'm going to give the wheel a little spin, and there is a little wobble on the wheel here, just to let you know, but that's because I cheated. I brought the rubber up some more, so it's, rather than it being below the actual tapered edge of that axle, I got it riding on the edge, so it's up a little higher. I wanted to give it more space off of the actual housing that it's retained in. Sorry, I'm trying to plug it up underneath. Alright, looks like it's rotating okay. Alright, so I guess I'd say that the usage of a bearing for a rollerblade actually worked. We'll see how long it lasts. I went ahead and put another motor on back order, just in case this one didn't work, broke down on us. But so far so good, we'll just let it ride.